Roundtable number 26, and we're talking here with Brian Lucas and Josh Fuentes and Nick Farr, the one and only. As you can see, there are 3 stages of hair growth here. We've got Nick, just a little, the soul patch. We got Fuentes with the full 1990s youth pastor goatee. And then we've got Brian Lucas with the hipster Mumford & Son beard of knowledge. Beautiful.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we're excited today. We're going to be talking a little bit about parent ministry. A lot of youth ministers talk about partnering with parents, about being a resource to parents, about parent ministry, etc. And we just want to kind of explore what that means, what that looks like in different contexts, and kind of some things that are working and not working for us. So first question, let me just ask you guys, what do you think it means, like what does it mean to you to partner with parents? What does that look like?
Well, I'll go ahead.
Not everybody wants.
I'll start it off. I think what it really means to partner with parents is to let them know that you are there as their biggest supporter, cheerleader, like the person who is going to cheer them on in just the deepest, darkest hours they experience as a parent. And at the same time, just being like, hey, whatever you need, I'm going to try to be your main resource through whatever you may be dealing with as a parent. And so I think just being that I got your back person with I'm going to resource you at the same time is really kind of just what it kind of means to just really partner with parents.
Yeah, I think. For us, it looks like trying to get a combination of finding where we can get parents plugged into the ministry, where we can get them not just resourcing them, and we do that as often as we can, but also finding ways that they can be a part of it, whether that's through helping just provide food if they don't feel like they really need to be part of the ministry, if they don't feel called to teach. But we've got parents who help teach in our youth services. We've got parents who run food, or like we're going on a trip, so we get them planning all the hotel and scheduling stuff. We get them feeding the kids between events at the conference and that kind of thing, where we're giving them a chance to serve in whatever skill set they have. Or even this summer, for 2 summers now, we've had a team of parents who on their own asked if they could organize some youth hangout events over the summer, and they ran that in lieu of our midweek program. They ran hang time, and it was just a bunch of parents opening up the church and bringing out games and hanging out with kids and giving them a chance to come and play. And there were no paid staff that were directly involved with the event, except we'd stop by and hang out and say hello to everybody, and the parents totally ran with that. And so just I think empowering them and giving them the authority to say, hey, you're part of this ministry too. These are your kids. What is God calling you to do to pour into them?
Yeah, that's good. Nick, what do you guys think?
Parent ministry, I think, looks different in different contexts. My former church, our parents were extremely involved, wanted to know how they could help and how they could serve. We had a lot of students that had parents that were believers as well, and so that was much easier to get them involved in the ministry and connect with them. In my current context, I would say a good chunk of our parents are non-believers, and they really are not connected with any church whatsoever. They just bring their kid and drop them off. The other parents are, typically have younger kids, so they're involved in multiple ministries and volunteering. So I'd say in our context now, a parent ministry is just providing services for the parents when they need it. We don't want to shove it down their throats, but we also want to be there. So how that plays out is when they're in crisis in their family, we try to make ourselves very aware of what's going on and very available for them. So we offer free counseling services. We have a couple doctors on staff I do pastoral counseling, so does our middle school pastor, and we really try to just connect them with tools and resources. And we'll meet with the parents during that time, and then also with the students, and sometimes with them together. And so that's how a lot of that looks. We also provide, email resources about what's going on and the latest, issues kind of facing students. But it looks different. We're working on it because ideally I'd like to have them way more involved than our culture is kind of at right now.
Yeah, I know for us, it's always hard because there's always the parents that run the broad spectrum. There's parents that don't want their kids to be involved in church and almost discourage it, and then there's those that are, so plugged into the church that they're busy serving in a million other ministries. A one-size-fits-all sort of thing for parent ministry. For us, I think the way we kind of communicate with parents is probably the best way we partner with them. Is just trying to make sure that they understand that we're a partner to them, we're a resource to them, and so we're going to do everything we can to be a good communicator. My son, and sometimes the communication from when are practice times and when are games and when's this, and sometimes there's nothing more frustrating than being a parent and not knowing what's going on with the stuff your kids are involved in. And so for us, we want to communicate as much as we can just to say, hey, if this can be a resource to you, you've got plenty of time to plan for it and get your kid there. And if it's not, then it's not. It's okay if they can't make it to everything. They're not going to hell because they missed a youth group last week or whatever. Recognizing that and stating that out loud, yeah, maybe, Brian, you're right. So yeah, so we tend to over-communicate the snot out of everything in an effort to kind of partner with parents. We're using an texting service. We're doing a website. We've got a million things that we're trying to get information in the hands of parents. And in addition to that, giving them resources hey, you want to listen to the message that your kid heard on Wednesday night? Go listen to it on our podcast. Have a conversation with your kid about the things that we talked about. So yeah, just trying to encourage a spiritual environment in their world. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of it for us. What have you guys done in the last couple of years that you would say, when it came to partnering with parents, that was really good. That just hit the mark. I was pretty happy with how that worked out.
I think for, at least in my context, probably one of the biggest things that's worked out for us is when we put together a family mission trip. Is where we kind of sat down and we said, hey, what can we do to really just reflect the body of Christ when it comes to missions? Because sometimes there's this idea that, missions is for just the teenagers and it's not for us as adults. And so it basically said, hey, how about we just say, let's do a family mission trip. And we're going to promote this as a way for parents and their kids to go on this mission trip together. And because it's a family mission trip, and we believe that the whole church is a family, we're going to just open this up to everyone. And so this mission trip, we got parents with their teenagers and their kids. The last one we went on, I took my 6-year-old daughter with, and so that was really awesome that her first mission trip was at 6 years old. We got senior adults who came and just teenagers without their parents. And so what it did was it just kind of brought our entire body of believers together. And for the parents who did bring kids, it was just really powerful for them because one of my favorite testimonies is one dad. We were doing kind of like a backyard Bible club type style thing, and his daughter was giving her testimony. And her dad comes up to me and goes, I've never heard my daughter give her testimony. And it was just such a major deal because I think as a parent, or even as a parent, we've been with these kids our entire lives, so we automatically just assume we know their story, and we never ask them their story. And then for this dad to hear his own daughter's story it just blew his mind because he never heard it from her own perspective. And so that's probably been our greatest success here, is just doing a family-style mission trip.
Before you go on, Josh, would you tell us, like, real quick, because I'm guessing if most youth ministers out there hear that and they're like me and they're intimidated by the idea of a family mission trip. So, because I know I'd rather hang out with students than them crazy adults any day, right? So, like, what was your biggest obstacle? How did you have to, like, overcome, or what did you have to deal with kind of that whole demographic?
Probably the biggest obstacle is trying to figure out the little kid dynamic. You know, teenagers, they handle themselves real well. Adults handle themselves, and it's really great because adults will get in there, and I mean, they're totally for the teens, and they're wanting them to just, you know, love and empower them. And what's really neat is that teenagers, just talking to a couple of them, they felt like, because they felt so safe with the adults there, they felt like they could go out and do more. And so, I mean, that was just really fantastic. But really, just how do kids fit into this? How do I have like a 6-year-old manage to do a mission trip? And so that was really this year was the first time we had that, and we had 2 6-year-olds with us, and it was just like, okay, let's just see what can happen here, and you know, how much can the 6-year-old do without making them cry? and I mean, this time it was a really good thing. I mean, we were able to have our 6-year-olds participate in like backyard Bible clubs in the morning, and then like in the afternoon we had like a few parents, you know, who were making meals, say, hey, let the kids stay with us so they can kind of get a nap or just play or run around, and then and so they're not so exhausted and so wiped out that they can't even handle, you know, they can't even handle the night. And so for adults and teenagers, you know, mission trips are long hours. For kids, like, that's not a very good thing for them. And so I think that's probably the greatest challenge, just figuring out how the little kids work within that trip.
They just need to suck it up.
Agreed.
For us, one of the things that I've done before is we had, you know, you always have the parents that are your biggest cheerleaders, and they're on your side, and they're always supporting you. They're always the first ones there, the last ones out. And then you've got parents that are a little bit more skeptical and stand kind of on the sidelines and don't really want to, you know, per se get involved, or maybe they're critical of you, and they're parents that are always assuming the worst and everything. And so one of the things that I did was I created kind of a parent leadership team where I handpicked, you know, like 3 parents that were very supportive of me, 3 different parents that were very supportive of me, and then 3 parents that really had not developed that trust with me yet. And I knew that was going to create a little drama in that, but my goal was, if I can get these parents that are critics of our ministry and of me in on the planning and give them a voice, then maybe they will see that there's more to this than me just, you know, trying to spite them or, you know, whatever, and give them an outlet to voice their opinions. And so we did that, and it was good both ways. You know, the parents that were critical really gave us a lot to think about, and I think they felt heard and they felt honored. What was good for them, though, is when they were sometimes, you know, would overreact to a situation or emotionally respond without having all the facts, then the parents that were in my corner would be able to counteract that and say, well, actually, you know, I think, you know, you're maybe reading too much into this, and that's not what you think it is, and they would go to bat for me, so I wouldn't have to say that. And so it balanced out the perspective there. And what ended up happening was that my relationship with parents that had not built trust with me yet really started to take off and develop. And, you know, it took some time, but it was worth it. So we would have these meetings and say, all right, so this is what I'm planning on adding to our calendar this, you know, these next 6 months. Let's put that on the table. What do you think? Here's the planning I've done. What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? What are your concerns? and just really opened it up to them. If we could do one thing for families, what could we do? Where do you feel like we are, deficient? And really just giving them a voice was honoring to them and really helped quite a bit to get them on board.
That's good. I'm glad you didn't say that they all listened to the critical parents and they all hated you by the end.
No, because you have to pick parents that are going to balance them out. And so
Gotcha.
I had an elder, I had a deacon, I had and then another parent that I knew were in my corner, and so it was good.
That's good. Ryan, how about you? You got any success stories to share?
Yeah, I think it's just a continuation of what I'd mentioned at the beginning. The ways that we're really finding success with parents, I'll be honest, the equipping them as far as using something like a parentministry.net or like sending them a lot of resources, we rely more heavily on, as we're asked, we send links. Parents, we've built kind of a culture where parents feel free to come to us and talk about things if there's something pressing, and both we have 2 full-time staff in youth ministry, and so we've both had counseling training through our biblical counseling program at our church as well as other venues. So we're available for those types of things. But on the really successful parent integration in our ministry, I look at things like Josh mentioned about we always have parents come along as chaperones on our mission trip. And so we have a few parents with us when we go down to Mexico, and we go stay at an orphanage, and they help with the construction project and everything, and they're there with their youth student. We don't bring any kids. We don't have them bring their little kids or anything like that, so we don't do the full-on family mission trip. But again, just in every aspect of our ministry, we have a very inclusive leadership philosophy of for students, parents, other adults that want to get involved, we try to make it a yes. You want to be involved? Yes. How can we make that happen? And so if a parent is at all willing, we're kicking off our middle school small groups again this fall, and we've got a couple of parents that are leading small groups, a couple more that are talking about getting into it, and we're kind of discussing making sure they have the time to be able to meet that. We have every small group except for, I believe, one of them currently. We have high school meets in off-campus small groups. Every single group except for the ones led by the staff and one group led by another adult volunteer. Every other one is led by the parent of a youth. And so the more we give opportunity for that, in our leadership, I feel like that speaks to the other parents coming in when they see, if a kid brings their friend and they see not only the friend there, but the new parent sees the parent that they also know involved and plugged in or connected, then it gives them a little more pull to get involved or to get connected or to connect with us a little more and be open to what else we have and the church has to say into their lives. And so I think just the overall idea of the success story is the number of parents we have serving the various aspects of our youth ministry is, they outweigh any other volunteer category or parents or demographic parents serving. So
yeah, and it always seems to change their tone, especially if they've been critical in the past, when they start having skin in the game, right?
Yeah, and we have one in particular who that's exactly what happened, and she's so on board with what we're doing now, and it used to not be the case, and it's amazing. That turned it around more than anything else. So
that's awesome. We started to recognize at Hazelwood that our Wednesday night program wasn't being real well attended by adults, and we were having a hard time with our youth ministry trying to build in some growth and some momentum, especially with our middle school group, because parents weren't coming to the adult program that was being offered. And so we started to kind of think like, man, how can we fix this problem? How can we bring more middle school students? How can we reach out to those parents of middle school students that the middle school students have to rely on to get there because they can't drive? So we started last semester. We started a parent connection life group, we call it, and it's a life group that meets at the exact same time as our regular Youth Wednesday program, and they actually do the same study that the students do. So like right now we're studying through the Book of James, and they're studying through the Book of James with us. So when they leave on a Wednesday night, the parents have just read James 1, the student has just read James 1 and dissected it with us, and so they can walk out of there and go, hey, what did you think about that section of James that talks about listening and doing, and what do you think about this? And it just, even if the parent doesn't necessarily take advantage of it, like it sets the stage and gives them the expectation and the opportunity to like have a spiritual conversation with their kid. And that's been a really good addition for us. We saw like there were 13 parents at our life group last Wednesday, so it's been a good thing for us. Any other stories of successes or something else that somebody might be out there going, man, other solutions you've seen or tried?
Yeah, I at my last church, I had a situation where there was a lady who had an opportunity to give a ride to a couple of students, or to one student in particular, and then she kind of felt like there was no place for her in the ministry. And like I said, like the philosophy of just like, how can I say yes to you being here somehow? How can I make that a possibility to connect with you? And she was part of the prayer ministry at our church. And so I asked, would you be willing to, you know, stick around and pray for the service as we're going, like be our prayer warrior during church, so that as we're getting, you know, the youth band's on stage doing worship, everything else, because we met on Tuesday nights, nothing else is happening at the church that night, and so, you know, can you be here somewhere and just be praying that the message comes through clear, that the students respond, that they engage in worship, that God, you know, that they're willing to meet with God in this place in this time. And she was kind of like, yeah, I can do that. What should I do while everyone's just hanging out? And we had just started a snack bar, and so I asked, well, would you mind running the snack bar? Oh, yeah, I can do that. So she became our snack bar mama, and then during service, we would close it down. We'd run it before and after service, and we would close it down, and she would pray. She'd sit out in her car. She started recruiting other people. She would pray in the parking lot. And then when that was what that has grown into is she still serves. I've been gone for 3.5 years now. She still serves in the youth ministry. Now she's a small group leader. She's involved in the ministry. She's gotten more and more plugged in. And that was all from a simple, small thing of saying, can you just be here to help run the snack bar and say hi to kids and, you know, and just pray during the service? And would you spiritually engage with our ministry? And a woman who thought, I have no place teaching or leading kids. They're going to think I'm lame, all this stuff. They love her. She's one of the most loved leaders they have. And she's been there for over 4 years now.
Yeah,
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, can I just add that Snack Bar Mama is by far the greatest title ever given to a parent in youth ministry, and like, yeah, and if you don't have a Snack Bar Mama, like that needs to like somehow get incorporated into your ministry like ASAP.
Yeah, mandatory volunteer position right there, Snack Bar Mama.
We have a queen of the cafe.
That's also good.
She has a T-shirt and everything.
Nice. Yeah, and
I think she even changed her social media. I believe most of it now is Mama Leslie, and that's her. She's like the mama of the youth group, and it's awesome.
That's great. So I want to kind of keep this a little bit short today. I don't want to keep everybody too long, but so give me like one thing. If you could say, all right, I need to better equip parents to be the spiritual leaders of their household. Like, what would you say, looking at your ministry, what do you want to do, or what would you say you need to accomplish, and maybe even how do you get there if there's something you got on the table?
I think, you know, and the more I'm working through this understanding of equip, I think this is like kind of the $1,000,000 question about what does it mean to equip someone. And more as I've been evolving through this and thinking about this, like this scripture just comes to me, and it's like I think this is what it has to say, and it really does tie into what we're talking about today. And it's the infamous 2 Timothy 3, and it's verse 14 through 17, which basically says, all scripture is God-breathed, and it's profitable for teaching and for reproof and for correction, for training. And what's really interesting is that Paul says, when he's writing this, he says, Timothy, hold fast to what you were taught as a kid and what you learned as scripture as a kid. And so the more I'm dealing with this passage, the more I'm realizing is that to equip someone means to show them how to read the Word of God. Because at the end of the day, that's what brings life transformation. And so if I could show a parent how to read God's Word and get them excited about that and get into the Word and read the Word and let that transform their lives, then I believe what the Scripture says, that's going to change how they're going to parent their own kid. And so if there's one thing I hope I can do is just teach parents, or anyone in that matter, how to read God's Word, so that basically changes everything about how they're going to love their spouse or love their parents or serve in the ministry here at church.
I think for me, it's not. I think I've become intentional about following through on what kind of came naturally, which was, just like with students, encouraging them to make their walk with Christ a moment by moment, every breath kind of thing, that as we talk with parents and encouraging them to, take your kids to church with you, bring them into the main service with you, and then come to the, you volunteer and you send the kid to the middle school service, the second service, or you go volunteer and then go out to eat while your kid is at high school service or whatever. And be connected in that way. Everyone's serving, and then making that, being able to have those conversations of, like, hey, what'd you learn? What are you reading? Making reading and prayer, reading the Bible and prayer, a part of your daily life. Your kids see what you do. If you are living this out, it will come through. The Word of God is not going to be put into your mind 5 to 7 days a week. If you're, doing pretty regular Bible study and prayer, that's not going to come back with no effect on your family and your kids. And so if you can be pursuing Jesus, no matter how flawed or how ill-equipped or how incompetent you feel at it, if you can be working on that at all times and just keep at that and bring your kids along, bring your family along, be open about where you're at, pray with your kids, ask your kids to pray for you, doing those kind of things, just keeping it simple, not trying to overcomplicate it and try and be the Bible professor of your house, but just trying to be the person who is leading the charge, be that bannerman running in front of your family saying, I am following Jesus and I'm bringing you guys with me. I think that is the most, not only ultimately going to have the best result, but it's going to be the most practical and reasonable way to get the average person engaged and engaging their family and helping equip their students and fulfilling all of that discipleship question of, we get them 2 hours, what's happening the other billion hours of the week. I'm bad at math, so yes.
Is it a billion? I forget what the math is on that. I don't think it's
I'm pretty sure it's 1 billion exactly.
Okay, perfect. Nick, what would you say?
For us, reading Mark O's book on adolescence and development, one of the things that I took from that was, it's our job as pastors to normalize experiences for students. And so I look at that as it's my job also to help normalize experiences for parents. And so any chance I get, when a parent is talking to me about something that is going on with their child, and their gut reaction is just to say, or knee-jerk reaction is to say, I need to take him to the pastor, or he needs to handle this, or she needs to handle this. That most of the time that's not the case, and a lot of the times I found that parents just are overwhelmed and they don't know what to do. and they think it's a lot worse than it actually is. And so I try to use my time when I get it to normalize it for the parents and say, this is a very normal thing that your child's going through. And I talk to parents all the time that their child's going through this, and I talk to students all the time that are going through this. And so, it is something that is manageable and that we can walk through this together. And just by saying that and naming it, as they're not the only one, has the same effect that it does on students. I see parents get more comfortable and more confident, and then they start to look at practical ways and they can start to address it. Because when something starts to go wrong with your kid, it's like doomsday. Like, oh my gosh, we're going to go into a spiral, and you overreact and you get emotional, and and so if you can say no, it's not that bad. Everybody's dealing with this. Then that can empower them to take more charge. And I'll say, I don't mind sitting with you when you're having that conversation, but I think you can have that conversation with them. I think that's okay. Maybe here are some resources that will give you a little bit more confidence, but I think you can do that. And I found that's very helpful. I like it when people do that with me, with my daughters, and it's just I think really beneficial to help equipping them to an element of equipping them to be the spiritual leaders.
Yeah. I would say, kind of along those lines, every parent wants to be a good spiritual leader. Like, I don't think any parent is like, my hope is that this kid goes straight to Hades. That's my plan. Like, I mean, that's not what they're after.
That hasn't been.
But I think a lot of times.
Well, sometimes you want your kid.
Right. So, yeah, but I think sometimes it boils down to either, number one, they don't know how. They have no clue what they're doing. They're completely lost. Or number two, they're intimidated by it. They're afraid to try it because they're afraid they're going to mess it up or do it wrong or whatever. And so, you what?
Like they're going to screw up their kid?
Right. Yeah. Like, if I try to have a Bible study around the dinner table and I say something wrong, like, they're never going to believe in Jesus. It'll be over. Like, I think that's honestly it. I mean, so something that I think is just huge for us, and it goes along with what Nick was saying, is just helping parents by giving them a lot of resources that we even use as a ministry. And so, like, I've made all of our life groups material, like, it's accessible to parents on our HCCYM app. So the parent can go in there and pull right off the same lesson that the youth leader is using. Like, they can grab it. They can listen to any of the stuff we're teaching, communicating along the way, so that they can have a spiritual conversation with their kid. They go to the Parent Connection Life Group and they hear the same general message that their kid hears at the same time. Like, it's just creating an atmosphere where, like, you can do this, you can win, like, this is possible, and then just encouraging them to do it and to set some realistic goals with it. So, yeah, I think that's probably been our best approach, and I think we always need to get better. I think there's stuff we can still do that's, we're not there yet, but it's getting there. So, well, any other? I had one other question. I don't know if you guys got another, like, quick answer. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Brian talked a lot about parent volunteers, which I think we probably all have. But there's always that dreaded conversation when a parent walks up and says, "Hey, I want to get plugged in," and you're thinking, "You are the last person I want to plug into our ministry." Like, so how do you take that parent who genuinely wants to be involved, who genuinely, like, is invested in the spiritual life of their kid, but youth ministry may not be their cup of tea? Like, how do you utilize their passion? How do you get them plugged in? Like, give me a quick minute answer.
I think if they are that, I've come to the conclusion, if they are that passionate about getting plugged in to wherever they want to, you say, go for it. And from then, you empower them to say, do what you want with it, and if they don't do anything, problem solved. So, because there are plenty of people who come up and say, the Lord has laid this on me, and I want to do it, And you're like, okay, then do it. And nothing ever happens. So, you know, when a parent wants to come in and say, I want to get involved in this ministry, say, all right, this is when we meet, come. And if they don't show, then that just tells me they really didn't want to be a part of it. But, you know, if they really do show and they get involved in there and, you know, maybe it's a little sticky a little bit, but I mean, that's where we come in and we shepherd and we love them and we just give them, say, hey, here's what's kind of going on. Let's meet here. Let's kind of some quick, this is what we're doing. Here's some training real quick. And there you are. Then buy have it. Because I mean, we should never put up barriers to ministry. You know, even the most weird, sketchy person, you know, we've got to figure out a way to get them somewhat involved so that they know that even their own failings, they can still love Jesus and serve Him. So, I mean, that's just kind of how I'd run with that.
I want to push back on that a little bit. I think it's okay to tell certain people that this is not your area of giftedness, and you need to move to another area of giftedness. I think it's okay to. We're very protective about who gets to spend time with our students because we want it to be as a positive experience as possible. You know, they're more finicky than adults, you know, if something goes wrong. And so there are some parents that I'm like, I really do not, you know, I don't think you're in the right place, or you're going to be communicating values that we don't agree with, or you're just trying to be a helicopter parent and, you know, spy on your kid. And so, you know, I think of and it's typically homeschool parents, although I don't want to knock the homeschool community. But
you just did.
Yeah, I was homeschooled for a little bit. So, but you know, I think of a couple parents that I've known that manage every single element of their kid's life through homeschooling, and they want to come to the ministry and be involved, but their motive is to control the ministry so that their kids are still in that controlled environment. And at some point, you lose your, if you're not careful, you can lose your right to lead in that area, and so you have to be very careful where you place them. So, you know, in that situation, I try to put them in a position that is, if they're really power hungry, I try to put them in a position where they have no power and authority, and they're in a servant position, and their role is just to serve. And that kind of weeds them out as well, because if you're power hungry and you want to control, if you can't control, then you get bored and you move on, or you grow and you learn through that. You know, I think of, there's some parents that just maybe don't understand it, and they kind of believe some really different things. And so, you know, we like to have different levels of leadership. So we have parents that just come in and hang out with students on Sunday morning as they're coming into our service. We do our services on Sunday, and they're just greeting new students. You know, and that's a very safe place for me to put a parent that I'm maybe a little weary of, because they're just going to be saying hi to new students, and they don't really have any authority or, you know, anything like that. They're just being a greeter, or they're in our cafe. You know, they're working in those areas, or they're on our prayer team that meets and prays before services. You know, or they help clean up. You know, so. But then we've got small group leaders that are the core of our leadership, and those we're super particular about. And we've got some parents that want to do that, and we're just like, well, actually, you know, we're full, and we've got everybody we need, and we've got some backups, and you know, but there have been parents that I have told in the past, like, I really think your gifts would be better used someplace else. Or I've had that tough conversation and said, you know, I think your kid just needs some space, and they need to just be able to grow and explore on their own, and you can trust us as leaders to pour into them, and we're very pro-parent, and we will keep you in the loop, and you will know exactly what's going on, but your kid needs a place to grow as well, and you need to be growing, and you need to be learning, and so, you know, use this time to invest in some other way. So I kind of agree with you, Josh.
Well, you know, the preface, within reason, you know, there's always wisdom that you got to apply to everything. And so, you know, I think,
you don't just let them teach?
Yeah, yeah. I just get them up there and be like, just do it, man. Just whatever, Let the Spirit, let that. That's you got it. You're good. And so I think that's really great, Nick, because it's true. You got to find this right balance of, how can I make sure this parent feels like they have been affirmed and loved, and where they can serve, but at the same time recognize that they've got to find a place that where they can serve to their greatest potential. And we got to know when and where and when to have that conversation. Because I've had times where I said, okay, yeah, come in here, and the parent is automatically recognized after the first time, I don't think this is for me, and it's like, oh, okay, that's totally fine. Sometimes you got to let them experience that themselves to finally, let to help the Spirit kind of do its own work right there. And then sometimes maybe they don't quite get the picture, and you say, okay, well then let's kind of have more of a conversation and kind of bring this around in there. So I think it's a good melding of both.
Yeah. I had a parent come up to me this Sunday, and they said, hey, we want to get involved in your ministry. And I said, hey, I've got a great group of 6th grade boys for you. And they're like, oh.
Weed out the uninterested.
And they kind of moved on.
Yeah, I'll keep this super quick. We use spiritual gifts tests as part of it, helping them find out even, like, I know what you think you want to do, but what are you actually gifted at? And not as the definitive, like, it didn't come up on your test, you can't serve there. But just helping them recognize, and I love the line, I've lost track of who said this, but everybody's a 10 somewhere. And so I use that when I'm talking to a new recruit, whether I've pursued them or whether they've come to us, so a parent or whoever else, same thing all the time. And when we've had that kind of conversation and talked about gifts and calling and passions and all of that, and help somebody recognize this isn't for you. You want to be here for your kid, or you want to be here to make sure that we're not heretics, or whatever your thing is, but there's this place over here for you to really serve well. Mm-hmm. And I think that being able to address those kind of things, and last year I had to turn away a parent who is a fantastic volunteer and is super gifted, but that same conversation of everyone's a 10 somewhere, and what you want to do with us is maybe your 8.5, and I hate to say it, but your 10 is clearly this other thing that you're also looking at. And I would rather see you go 100% with that than give us the leftovers after you're done with that and be burnout on both and miss an opportunity to actually be a great volunteer and love serving in the church. And so that, I think, a lot of what you guys said, I totally 100% agree with. I would add to that, a good way to go there is help them find their 10 and help them identify their spiritual gifts and what things they're actually called to and passionate about, and where those things come together. Where are you gifted and what are you passionate about doing? And let that be a conversation about the church at large, not just the youth ministry.
By the way, Brian, you're a 10.
Thank you. The beard, anyway.
The beard's an 11. Just saying. Your beard's an 11.
Turn it up to 11.
Yeah, for us, I'll kind of close with this, but we created 2 levels of leadership in our youth ministry. So we kind of believe in that same thing. Like, if somebody wants to get involved, we'll help them explore if this is where they want to serve. So what we say is that first level is our support team. And so I may call you because I need somebody to make sure kids aren't making out in the baptistry during a 5th quarter party. And, like, I know you can handle that. Or I need somebody to make sure that, like, the snacks are good to go at the lock-in or whatever. So I can bring those supporters along and work alongside them in some of those more innocuous roles and get a vibe for, like, where they're passionate, where they're gifted, where I could plug them in on a bigger scale. But we ask them to serve in that capacity as a support team person for a while before we ever move them into a leadership position where they're right there with students, hanging out all the time, being involved on Wednesday nights, etc. So that's allowed us to kind of get to know them and get a feel for who they are before we really plug them in. And a lot of times they find out in that first set of leadership, they find out, like, I don't like this at all. I'm out. Like, I'm done. And that's fine for them. I mean, my sons are trying to figure out, they're playing soccer and swimming and football, and like they don't know what they're doing yet. They don't know what they like yet. And it's okay for us to let parents kind of explore the same thing and realize
also
on their own.
Yeah, background checks. Always background checks.
Yes. Sometimes that weeds them out right there. So.
Yeah.
Do I see you're a convicted felon? You want to teach them next week?
I had a parent or a guy, an adult, come to me and he said, I really want to work with 7th grade boys. And I was like, all right, well, we have to do a background check. And he's like, why? And I was like, because we need to do this. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I'll see you later.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the weed out right there. If they will not let you do a background check, it's like, well, then you just can't be a part of this. So yeah, just if you're not background check, I mean, there it is. That's the entry point right there.
Well, guys, this has been good. We'll try to keep these going on Mondays, Monday afternoons, and appreciate those who tuned in. And you can also check us out at youthmin.org if you want to check it out later on, or recommend it to somebody, or share it, or whatever. Don't miss out on all the resources. I know as fall is hitting, there's a lot of lessons and sermon graphics and lots of great resources over at the store you can check out for pretty cheap. So anyway, it's been good hanging out with you guys. Always a pleasure, and keep it real.
Yeah.